What does Mark Sandy bring to the investigation, bring to the conversation? Remind us the OMB role in this story.
Yeah, so Mark Sandy, Brian, is a career official at the Office of Management and Budget, which means he's not a political appointee of President Trump's, and therefore he's decided to defy the order, or the wishes, rather, from the White House counsel and the president himself, trying to prevent all of these executive branch employees from testifying. He could provide important information to Congress because it was the OMB that was involved in stopping that aid, that $400 million in aid from flowing into Ukraine. The aid eventually went to Ukraine, but there was a delay. It was ordered, according to reporting by the president, set forth by Mick Mulvaney, the acting White House chief of staff and the OMB director. And Mr. Sandy, the OMB staffer, could shed much more light and detail on the process inside that office for how that aid was stopped, what concerns were raised by himself and other career employees at the time, and what the system was for documenting that.
Tamara, we should repeat, these witnesses that have come forward are about to appear in these hearings are people who have given their depositions in closed-door sessions attended by both parties. They are not limited in their testimony to what's on the deposition. Indeed, Mr. Taylor yesterday gave us new details we didn't know. What is Yovanovitch likely able to add to the story tomorrow?
Well, what she doesn't know a lot about is what happened after she left. So she doesn't have a lot of visibility on that July 25th phone call, but she knows a lot about what happened leading up to her firing and the campaign that was led by Rudy Giuliani to have her ousted. At one point, even the president's son was tweeting that she should be fired. Now, of course, the president has the right to fire any ambassador he wants. But she is somebody who was working with civil society groups. She was working to push back against corruption in Ukraine. And so she is a figure who has some insight into what was going on in Ukraine and this sort of alternate channel, this side channel of foreign policy that was being led by Rudy Giuliani.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.